saw the light, I saw the light. No more darkness, no more night. Now I'm so happy, no sorrow in sight. Praise the Lord, I saw the light.
Daylight in Daytona. It is what every driver, team and fan was waiting to see, and it is here. Welcome back to Speed's continued coverage, live and exclusive, of the 44th running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, presented by Crown Royal Special Reserve. Yes, there are some very hardy fans. Fires, blankets, sleeping bags, and maybe a beer or two. Whatever has got them through the night. It's been a tough, long slog, and boy, have we got a story to tell you. It's been a long, hard night. Is it ever an easy night here at the Rolex 24? I don't think so. Let's update you with who is where. And when we farewelled you last night, it was the 02 Target Chip Ganassi car in the lead. It is still that way, but there's a bigger story to tell. They haven't always been the front-running car, and this race is far, far from over. We will run through the entire leaderboard for you. Let's give a pat on the back to the top GT car, because it is the TPC Agilent Consulting Porsche of Randy Pobst, Mike Levitas, Ian Bass and Spencer Pumpelly. They're in the top 10 overall, and they've got a lap lead over the iRise TRG Pontiac GTO. Good morning, everyone. Leigh Diffey, Dorsey Schroeder, Chris Neville, Andrew Marriott, Calvin Fish, and Brian Till with you live here in Daytona. Good morning, Dors. This race, it's going to be on.
Been unbelievable throughout the night. These guys battling it out. There's a bigger story at hand, like you say. We see these cars 1 and 2 laps apart. That is nothing with 4 laps to go.
We've got a tremendous struggle
4 hours to go.
Second place, because all those cars on the same lap. They're 2 laps back from Dixon, Wheldon and Mears, but the fight really, really is on. However, the big storyline involves the Alex Job Racing Emery Motorsports Porsche Crawford that has been the storyline ever since pre-season testing and all weekend. It was the pole-sitting car. And let me give you a little interesting statistic. At the end of the 3rd hour, the car we're talking about was in 36th and 8 laps down. Well, during the night, it worked its way back, all the way back to the lead. An incredible performance from the 23 car. They just rocked their way through the night. They hunted the competitors down one by one. And as when we went off the air last night, they were gaining another lap back. Here's the rundown for you. Just a shade over 4 hours to go. It's the run to the checkered flag, and we are on race record pace for a Daytona prototype. Let me specify that. Last year was the highest lap count for a DP at 710, and we're just 100 laps away from that right now. And the attrition rate has been pretty high. Let's get back to the storyline, though, for these guys. Patrick Long, Lucas Luhr, and Mike Rockenfeller. They've put in a heck of a performance throughout the night, but they have had their fair share of adversity. Let's take you to some of those nighttime hours, and let's talk more about the challenges they faced.
We just keep pushing and pushing, you know, we throwing up qualifying laps, so for us we have nothing to lose. We want to win this race, and therefore we have to push. When we had the problem early on, we came back in the race and we said, okay, now we have to really push, and push again, and that's what we did so far, and we are back up front.
Drivers had no problem in pushing.
We had to replace right axle. The joint is broken. This time it's not a boot that's broken. Something broke, either the stub of the axle or the joint inside under the boot. I don't know what, but this is really irritating.
As you can imagine, they were leading, they got knocked back. They got back to the lead, they got knocked back again. The 3 lightning fast Porsche factory drivers in it, and the only American Porsche factory driver is standing by with Brian Till.
Well, Leigh, you chronicled the problems for the Alex Job team. We already saw it once. We showed you an axle, we showed you a CV, but we'll show you another one. This is the one that came off the car at 6:30 this morning. Look at this inside CV. just shredded apart. You can see that the entire covering there opened up, the grease came out. That's what got rid of the axle. Patrick long behind the wheel at the time, and Patrick, seems like you guys must have been really lucky with where it happened on the racetrack.
Yeah, luckily it happened right out in front here, and I was able to just swing the car right down here at pit exit, which is the closest to our pit stall. Unfortunately, it came apart, and we were running so great up till then, but we're far from giving up. This AJR crew's had a never say die attitude from the beginning, and it's helped Lucas, Mike, and myself just keep charging. We came back from a big deficit early on, so we're going to push and just wait and see what happens.
Well, I was going to say, I'm sure the team just completely exasperated with what's gone on, but the pace that you guys ran through the night was just torrid. Is that pace something that you can keep up, and will it get you to the front?
Yeah, you know, it doesn't seem to be affecting the car. What's gone on is whether we push or we don't. Actually, when the thing came apart, I was at, 3 laps ahead and relaxed. We're going to go for it and just see what things pan out. Obviously, there's been a lot of attrition in this race, so we're looking for a little bit more of that right now.
Well, problems can happen at any time, at any moment. These guys know it. The guys that hope it doesn't happen to them are down with Calvin Fish. Cal?
Well, Brian, at about 5:30 this morning, things were looking pretty good down here at Chip Ganassi Racing. They had both their cars running 1-2, the 01 leading the 02. Then suddenly, the 01 was in the garage area. Further investigation, terminal engine problems with that car. An oil pump pulley had come adrift. They had to retire the car. That meant the lead then went to the 02. But suddenly, with the 01 in the garage area, parked right alongside was the 02 machine. Alternator belt problems once again. There's some harmonic issue there. It keeps spinning that belt off. But now the guys are doing a tremendous job. They only lost 3 laps under green, getting the car back on track. Right now, Casey Mears is behind the wheel. They've been doing triple stints. That's Indy 500 champ on the pit wall, Dan Wheldon, getting ready to take his turn behind the wheel. And then it should be Scott Dixon hopefully finishing this thing off. But if they take this car to victory lane today, it'll be a total team effort. The drivers have done an incredible job, but think about this last night. The crew had to go to work when Dan Wheldon brought the car to the garage area. They changed all 4 brakes, an alternator belt problem, and a gear cluster would change within 5 minutes. Incredible stuff down here at Chip Ganassi. For more news on the Lexus front, let's go down to Andrew Marriott.
Yeah, well, down here, Eddie Cheever has been very laid back, but actually he's just sat up to talk to me. They've been battling for second place all through the night. Eddie, you're just on a pace and you can't really up it now.
We've run a pace throughout the whole race that we have not deviated from. Others have gotten quicker and slower, some have dropped out. We're running a pace we're comfortable with. We don't think we can go much quicker without risking the car more. We put some long gears on purpose to make sure that we didn't hurt the car. So our cards are on the table. Right now we have to no more brake pad changes. Hopefully nothing mechanically will be a problem that we have to sit and adjust in the pits. So we're just coming in for drivers, fuel, and tires.
Chris has just got out of the car. What did he say about the condition of the racetrack?
He said it was fine. We've suffered a little bit by being slow on the straightaway since we've been here. He said that's remained consistent throughout the race, but he says the racetrack is fine. We're just trying to figure out who we're going to put into the car. I'd like to have Christian at the end. He is the one with the most experience, and I think if it's a run for it at the end, he will do a good job.
Thanks very much. We'll go down to Chris Neville.
Thank you, Andrew. And running in second place right now, the 58 Red Bull Porsche, having some of the same problems a lot of these other teams are experiencing out here. Early on, they had a radiator hose leak, which took them a little bit back in the early hours of this race. Right now, that car is running very strong. However, the engine has been overheating in the past 6 hours. So what they're doing right now is blowing out that radiator. They're getting a lot of debris in the radiator on that car. So every time they're in pit lane, they're just trying to blow that radiator out. And also another team running very strong right now, Mike Shank Racing. They've been running up front. They've had a couple problems with the 60 machine. Early on, they had some suspension damage to the right rear corner, but right now, that car, what's happening is they're having some binding with the steering wheel. So when that car comes in, what Mike Shank is doing is spraying some silicone on that steering rod so it doesn't bind up for these guys. Calvin, you're down with the 02.
Yeah, the 02 is in, the leader of the race. Casey Mears brought the machine in. Indy 500 champ Dan Wheldon now behind the wheel. He said, man, this is a long race. He looked tired, he looked sleepy-eyed, but I'm sure he'll get fired up once he gets this Lexus back into the action. Tires have been done, as we mentioned earlier in the race, a lot longer to get the fuel in this year. Standardized fuel rig means it takes about 42 seconds. Service is done. Waiting for the okay. Dan Wheldon hits a gear and he's away.
And Dorsey, as you well know, when you're riding that wave of winning momentum, it just seems to keep going. Wheldon has got the mojo happening at the moment. The Indy 500 champion, the reigning IRL IndyCar Series champion. He went testing last week at Phoenix and was fastest, and now they lead this race, and this is only his second attempt at the Rolex 24. He's in the groove. Time for him to go out and fulfill his next duty. 20 down, 4 hours to go, and we're going to take you all the way to the checkered flag. Speed's coverage of the Rolex 24 at Daytona is presented by Crown Royal Special Reserve. Be a champion, drink responsibly. Brought to you in part by Rolex, a crown for every achievement. And powered by Pontiac, designed for action. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway Run, and good morning. For those of you on the West Coast, thanks for getting up so early and being with us for our continued coverage of the Rolex 24. It's a great sight, isn't it? The weather has been very, very kind to us throughout this year's 44th running. And what a scene to take us home. Well, while everything is going right for the 02 Target Chip Ganassi car, for its sister car, the Comp USA machine, a championship-winning car, dramas. As Calvin mentioned earlier, problems, terminal engine problems for this car, sidelining them, taking them out. Scott Pruitt thanking his men, thanking his crew, and a dejected Luis Diaz, who heads to his home event in Mexico City and will be looking for revenge. They are out of this race, sadly. Let's update you on how the DP class sits at the moment as far as out of the race. And there's some pretty big names that have suffered hardship. Boris said Kyle Petty and Brian Tuttle, after having a pretty solid run for a first time out in that car and that combination. Adrian Fernandez, Scott Sharp and Mario Haberfeld, they were having a strong run. And what about the speed of the second Mike Shank racing car? The Graydon Elliott machine, Paul Tracy, was electrifying early on, and they went out also. Well, the GT class doesn't escape the beating either here at Daytona, because the list is fairly long for the GT cars, for the variety of cars we've had, and the explanation of how they have left this race. It's brutal, it's tough.
You know what really sticks out is the championship implications on the 0-1 and the 10. The Ganassi Riley, or the Ganassi, whatever, Lexus, and that Pontiac. These guys are the guys that run for the championship, both out at the first race.
Now let's talk GT, because this car has done an outstanding job in this team, the TPC Agilent Consulting cars. At various stages throughout this race, it wasn't a Porsche that was in the lead. We've had a Mazda lead the race, the RX-8 for Speed Source. We've had the TRG Pontiacs lead the way. But now look at this, such an experienced Porsche driver, such an experienced sports car driver, a champion. Randy Pobst and his regular teammate, his longtime teammate, Mike Levitas, Spencer Pumpelly and Ian Bass, they lead the way in GT. And Mike Levitas said to us yesterday, he said, we've got a simple game plan. We don't necessarily want to be the fastest. We want to stay clean. We want to stay out of trouble. They had an early hiccup, but look at that car. It looks pretty clean. And the car that is doing the chasing is the TRG Pontiac with that man there. Andy Lally is one of the 4 drivers, and Andrew Marriott's on the spot.
Yes, I am, and Andy Lally has just climbed out after a triple stint. Now, people might not realize that means 3.5 hours in the car, Andy. You look absolutely whacked.
Yeah, it's 3 hours in the car, and I've done 2 of them and 2 doubles today, so...
and you're going to do another one?
I have to do another one to finish this thing out. We got Johnny in there right now. I tell you, all the guys are actually not feeling so well. I don't know whether it's something we ate or whatever, but we're just kind of getting coming to grips with ourselves and sorting out. We got to tough it out. You know, we've got our sponsor, iRise, has got a bunch of people here, and you know, second place at the Rolex just isn't very satisfying when you're this close. You know, my buddy Spence is running in that other car. I don't know if a lot of people out there know, but he's actually my roommate. So hopefully one of us will be taking one of those shiny watches home, but certainly wanted to be in this group.
So some bragging rights here, but Andy Lally certainly earning his money today, guys.
And the extra frustration there for Andy is that he won a championship just a couple of years ago for that team they're chasing, for the TPC team.
You know, it hits on a good point, though. You have to be so careful in a 24-hour event about what you're eating, what you're doing, what you're consuming during that course of that time, because if you get food poisoning and the whole team gets it, you're in trouble.
GT leading car in the pits. Brian?
Randy Pobst brings the car in. Notice that they had to go to a manual jack. They lost the air jacks last night, so not really that big of a disadvantage, but what it does do, remember you can only have 4 guys over the wall, so now you got to have a guy on the jack instead of helping out on another play. So a little bit of a handicap there, but not much. A little wrinkle down the right side of the car, but all in all, car in good shape. I talked to Michael Levitas early on. He said, we're running well. We've got a pace that's good right now. It's faster than the Pontiacs, and there's more there if we need it. But as we've seen all throughout this event, bad luck can jump up and bite you at any time. Talk about bad luck, the 82 car running 3rd in GT. They've been running well, but I talked to Peter Goebel, who's the team manager there at Farnbacher. They lost 2nd gear last night about 11 o'clock, so they've been struggling with that, guys.
Yeah, they're 5 laps down. 5 laps down on the iRise TRG Pontiac GTOR. So this car here, the Red Bull Porsche, has got some work to do, but still time on side.
You lose a gear like that, a 2nd gear, usually there's pieces of metal that start working around inside the gearbox. If that doesn't take it out, the fact that you're running a gear too tall usually gets the clutch.
What a solid workload from Andy Lally as he was explaining to Andrew Marriott. We've seen some thrilling finishes in the GT class over the years, like Mike Rockenfeller storming through the field to almost win a couple of years back. And that's when Mike Rockenfeller really came on to the American sports car racing radar. And we've seen lots of him since then. Can he and his 2 teammates do it in the Daytona prototype class today? As the Farnbacher Lowes Porsche is in again.
And he hit something right in pit lane as he came in. He ran over some debris, went flying up. A lot of debris on the racetrack by the time the sun comes up, I'll tell you that.
This is the quartet of Luca Riccitelli, Dieter Questa, Philip Peter, who's behind the wheel right now, and Dirk Werner. Some super experienced guys in this car. And Brian's there again.
Looks like Dieter Quester is going to be taking over the wheel of the Red Bull Porsche here. Notice that they're taking the tear off the windscreen. It was really pitted, a lot of oil, a lot of debris on it, a lot of bubbles underneath that tear off as well. And Dorsey, as you know, when this sun starts to come up and you get that glare through the windscreen, can make it very difficult. Looks like a routine stop. Car's in great shape. The problem, we know, is not outside the car, it's inside in that gearbox. And as you pointed out, you get all those little metal pieces working loose in there. Something's bound to get eaten before long. It's like dropping silverware in a Cuisinart. We'll see if these guys can make it to the end.
What's amazing on the racetrack when the sun comes up, all the things you start to see that you didn't see that you were running through all night. They don't have time just to stop and clean the racetrack. I mean, under yellows, they'll get out there and pick up big pieces, but all in all, come daylight, that racetrack is a mess. I guarantee it is now. You see that from the windscreen tear off.
At the front of this race, the Target Chip Ganassi, Lexus Riley, still enjoying a 2-lap lead as the Farnbacher Lowes machine escapes. Now, the TRG organization with 6 cars here this weekend, and this is one of their Porsches. We've spoken a lot about the Pontiac GTORs, but this is one of 4 Porsches in the race for TRG. California-based team are specialists at Porsches. They're learning their way with the Pontiacs very quickly. But this is the organization that took a Porsche 911 to an overall victory in 2003. Now this car has dived for the pits because it was involved in an incident just a short while ago. Let's take a look at that, Dorsey, see if it explains what happened.
Well, he's offline here. Oh, there's the reason. The 23 car, you see the 23 just went by. He was trying to give him room, got in the dirt and couldn't turn. And we see it, a wreck, 2 wrecks yesterday.
And it collected several cones too.
Yeah, see, it just pushes right off the outside. Just nails those cones. A little damage on the front right there.
Actually, there's several cones underneath. There's a couple of cones caught underneath the car.
A little conage, they'll spit out. There's one. It's melting. There's one.
66, which carries 1998 Le Mans winner Stefan Ortelli. The car's still looking good. As far as where they are, 14th overall and 4th in class, so they could still be on the podium here at the Rolex 24. And what an accomplishment that'd be for TRG to have 2 on the podium. Let's get down to David Donohue.
Thanks, Lee. David's getting ready to get behind the wheel of the 58 machine. David, you've got to be pretty excited about how this car's going. You've been with the program for 3 years. The last 2 have been a little bit tough, but you guys are in a great position right now.
Well, there's still a lot of racing to go, and it's a real dogfight out there. We've expected this, you know. This whole class has become so competitive. The 23 cars coming up from behind is coming up strong, from what I understand. Man, I just woke up. The whole thing has changed in the last 2 hours. So Sash is coming in here in just a lap or so. His foot's hurting him, and Darren and I will do doubles to finish it out.
The last 2 years, you've been looking at how the cars performed at this event. It's really been tough on you that you guys have broke. Right now, you're so close. Are you starting to feel that this monkey might be off your back?
No, we still got more than 4 hours left, and anything could happen. And this is one of those things at this point in the day, you just want to win. I mean, second, you go home depressed. So, you know, maybe in a couple of weeks we'll say, you know, look at the points and you say second, third, fourth, that's pretty much all right. But right now, everyone here, you know, everyone's put in the effort all the way up and down pit lane. Anyone who's still out there, they really want to win.
Well, this team is still going very fast out there, but they are watching that engine temperature, so that's one thing we're going to have to pay attention to.
Well, you hear David Donohue talking about Sasha Massen's foot hurting him. These cars do not have power brakes, and the brake pedal usually is just a piece of steel with some non-slip put on it. And after you've braked hard like you do in a 24-hour race, you get a rock bruise on the ball of your foot, and it is so painful, and I expect that's what he's experiencing.
And you heard David say there that you get to this stage of the day and all you want to do is win. That's exactly what his dad did, and it would mean an enormous amount, not just to win for himself, but to win again for the Donohue family name, and they are still very much in this picture. The 58 Red Bull Brumos Porsche sits second, just 2 laps behind the target Chip Ganassi car, and the great race continues. We're glad to say that the Rolex 24 has kicked off the 2006 racing season, but we really crank it up. February 10, NASCAR is back with Speed Weeks on speed, 10 days, 70 hours, more coverage than ever before. From a tribute to the legendary Dale Earnhardt to the season opener of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, plus the premiere of the ultimate NASCAR pre-race show, NASCAR Race Day. It's a 10-day blowout leading up to the biggest race of the year, the Daytona 500. Speed Weeks here on Speed, our 8th caution of the race, and it involves the Essex Racing Daytona prototype. Rick Knoop being helped from the car, and we believe it was a pretty spectacular off. Glad to see Rick on his feet as he returns to the Rolex 24 for the first time in 20 years. As he heads into the back of the ambulance, and as we said, it was good to see him take himself there. Brian, did you see anything from pit road?
Oh, Lee, what a scary moment as the cars came through the tri-oval. Rick was the meat in the sandwich. He was that middle DP, just got together with another one, and as the car slid sideways, got a lot of air underneath it. The car went past pit out, probably 10 feet up in the air and backwards.
Well, we don't see it, Brian. It's landed already. By the time we get to our turn 1 camera, it landed on its wheels, no damage to the roof or wing, indicating it did a full pirouette in the air and landed flat down. Luckily for Mr. Knoop, but that's a rough ride when you land flat down on the wheels nonetheless.
And that's a rough ride for Mike Guay and the entire Essex team, because that was a top 10 running car ever since we farewelled you late last night. So it's been a very productive run for the Essex Daytona prototype, but it's all over now.
You know, surprisingly, the car doesn't look that damaged. I suspect it did a backflip We'll look again as the camera exiting turn 1. And it'll be in the air a little bit right there. At least the rear body work's flying off. It's headed the right direction, so it's done a complete flip. And it has got damage because look, the left front wheel's not touching the ground at all. No damage to the roof, no damage to the windscreen or wing, indicating it never got upside down onto the pavement, yet it's done a complete flip.
Judging by what Brian said, Rick Knoop is a very lucky guy. And that's what's left. Race leading car is in, Calvin.
Dan Wheldon taking advantage of this caution period here to do servicing. It should be about half a tank load of fuel. 4 fresh Hoosier tires to get him through this next stint. And if we work out the math right now, it should be 3 more stops. Get this car to the checkered flag this afternoon. He gets waved out. A little bit of a delay engaging again. Now he's underway.
Calvin, who do you think is going to finish that car? Will Dixon get back in? Because I think Mears is done, isn't he?
I believe so. They were saying they were triple stinting the guys, so it would be Wheldon in for another 2.5 stints. It'll really depend, Lee. I mean, he's not been in the car very long, about 15, 20 minutes. If they do a triple from here, it would just be like half a stint left. So if he's fresh and in a rhythm, they'll probably make that call on how Dan is feeling.
Yeah, 3.5 to go. They may just keep him in. We'll see how many cautions. That always plays a factor. There's the Brains Trust, Mike Hull and Chip Ganassi. Andrew Marriott.
Yes, I'm with Dario, just climbed out of the car. Well, your old mate Dan Wheldon, your old teammate, looks as if he might get the Rolex watch. But how do you motivate yourself from 9th place now?
We're just trying to do a good job and not make any mistakes. We lost 40 minutes during the night with a drive shaft failure. We lost another 15 to 20 minutes with a wishbone failure. So otherwise, I think we'll be right up there. Very, very disappointing. But my teammates have done an excellent job, and we're just trying to do the best we can.
Only your second endurance race. Are you going home and saying, I'm not doing another of these, or do you want to come back and win it?
Well, you want to come back and win it, but I'll tell you, it's pretty hard work.
Well, Dario Franchitti got a smile on his face. Chris Neville.
Andrew checked in with the 5 team, and Mike Gooey saying that Rick Knoop is fine, just got caught up in a situation there, but he is fine, so that's the good thing. Also, right before that caution came out, the 58 did pit. Sasha Mawson hopping out of that Red Bull machine, and David Donohue taking over the wheel. So those guys getting very lucky, pitting right before that caution came out, so not going to lose a lot of track time there, and they're just looking to put it to the fight to the Ganassi boys.
That was very touch and go for the 58 gang. Very touch and go. They could have lost a lot, but fortunately it's played their way. And David Donohue behind the wheel. We will make the most and take advantage of this caution to squeeze in a commercial break. When we come back, we won't be too far away from going green. The Essex car is off the track. Come back, we'll go racing. Anyone can party on the infield at Daytona, but only a select few have enjoyed the party in Victory Lane at Daytona International Speedway. Who will it be today? As far as the Daytona prototype era is concerned, a different winner every year. And the same will apply in 2006. Our defending champions went out yesterday. The SunTrust Pontiac Riley crashed heavily and was not able to be repaired. And these guys, you'd imagine, have been partying all night. They're still with us.
I remember that party when they sprayed me with that whipped cream. The next thing was champagne, and those two do not get along. Don't try it at home. It doesn't smell that good.
When was that, Dors? When was that?
91, I believe that was. They ganged up on me. It's a lot of fun, though. Worth it.
We are working our way back to green.
Checkered flag and the American Stars and Stripe. That's looking good. A lot of people here. I'll tell you that. The infield is absolutely packed, as it always is with road races. Nobody wants to sit in the grandstands. They want to get down here, get that breakfast.
It's the Ganassi car that leads the way. Will they stay there? They've been up and back and up and back. And this car, for Cheever Racing, the Crown Royal Special Reserve, Lexus Crawford, has been possibly the most consistent car throughout the race. It hasn't been the fastest. Perhaps that's why it's not in the lead, but it's definitely been consistent, Andrew.
Yes, it has. So they've just taken an opportunity this window to come in and change a set of tyres and top up with fuel. This wasn't scheduled. They saw the yellow, thought, oh, we'll take this chance. This is all about the strategy that they use in these races, and a bit of clever thinking here, except one of the left wheels isn't going on properly. Now they've sorted out, and also Patrick Carpentier missed the pit in the first time, so he got a bit of abuse on the radio actually from Eddie Cheever.
And is sent. What a top five we've got. The reigning Indy 500 champion, Dan Wheldon, out in front. David Donohue, a former Super Touring champion and a regular competitor in the Rolex Sports Car Series. Justin Wilson is third, former F1 driver, F3000 champion and Champ Car race winner. Fourth, Patrick Carpentier, a Toyota Atlantic champion, almost was a Champ Car World Series winner. He got second in the title. And in fifth place, Mike Rockenfeller, the reigning FIA GT2 champion and one of the fastest guys on the planet. The four is still running, and that is good to see. This is the combination of two-time defending Nextel Cup champion Tony Stewart, this man here, Butch Leitzinger, and Andy Wallace. They have had their fair share of problems. But let's get a GT update with Bryan.
Well, Lee, you guys keep talking about the big stars that are out there, but what about the stars of tomorrow? There are three 17-year-olds driving in the race. Colin Brown, Eric Lux, and this man, you probably recognize the last name, Rahal, Graham Rahal. Great job for you out there. You having fun in the Porsche?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a good car, and you know, it's not, it doesn't quite handle like an Atlantic car or an open wheel car, but it's a little more enjoyable actually, because it keeps you busy, and especially a race like this where we've got people passing you all the time and you're passing people. You know, even though you're driving for a few hours, it's pretty exciting.
Well, you talk about having fun in this car and then the open wheel cars and being busy. You got a busy 2006. Can you fill us in on everything that you're going to be driving this year?
Well, I don't know everything just yet, but it's going to be a lot. There'll be a lot of series that we'll be participating in. Probably, I would say at least 3 or 4 in the U.S. and Europe. So I'm looking forward to it, but it's going to be busy for me, like you just said, and I hope to get back out to more races like this.
Well, guys, you recognize that sly smile? I think we've seen it before on his dad, and this one, he's just as good.
Well, his dad, Bobby, won the Rolex 24 back in 1981, but this kid is pretty special. The youngest ever to win their CCA National Runoffs event. And in July of last year, he became the youngest ever driver to win a Pro Star Mazda race at age 16. He's got the pedigree, he's got the heritage, and Bobby's boy is a big star of the future. This time, this event was his first ever time racing at night, and he has done a very solid job so far. Cal?
Well, one of the guys who's out of this race is Mad Max Papis, and Mad Max, you had such a run going last night. I think you made up about 5 laps and got the 01 car to the lead. Sunday morning, you don't want to be here without a race car.
Absolutely not. And I have to say that the Comp USA guys have done a tremendous job. You know, I felt that today we were kind of doing another Mad Max things. You know, 5 laps, you know, to the lead. You know, battle with the O2 car, put the car back in the lead, gave the car back to Scott both time in the lead, and he was doing another great job like usual. And you know, it's kind of disappointing for all my guys at the CompUSA Ganassi team, but it looks like the O2 car is there, so still a good team effort.
You and Scott won the championship together in 2004, a year apart. Was the chemistry there immediately this weekend?
Right away, you know, it felt like being back home, you know, like was awesome, you know, like I just found everything improved and everything better, and you know, let me send a hi to Mason at home. I know you're doing better there, and sorry I couldn't make it happen, but I tried my really best.
Thanks, mate.
He really does. We joke with Max sometimes how he always says I've given it 110%, but he certainly does. He mentioned the O2 car is out in the lead, and that's why Max is hanging by to cheer them on. There it is, the sole remaining Target Chip Ganassi car, the Lexus Riley. Lexus hasn't won this event in the DP format. The last time Toyota won the Rolex 24 was back in 1993 with PJ Jones, Mark Dismore and Rocky Moran Sr. It's been a long time. Can they hang in there and do it? Ford has won and Pontiac has won the last 2 years, but Lexus is looking strong with 3 of the top 4 cars powered by Lexus. And you've got 2nd, 3rd and 4th all on the same lap.
They're not that far down to the overall leader when you look at their length of time, 3 hours and 23 minutes left in the race. 2 laps to the lead, but these 3 on the same lap. Going to put a good tussle up here, I would imagine.
Justin Wilson. First long race in a Daytona prototype. What an experience for him. Picked up his first Champ Car World Series victory last year. It was nice to crack that one.
Did a great job yesterday and last night with this car.
Lights are out on the pace car. Peels into pit lane. We're going to go racing again. Let's see if these guys fighting for a podium spot can make any dent in the lead that the O2 Ganassi car has. Wheldon takes the green. We go racing again. And the car immediately behind we should give some props to, because it's the Kodak Easy Share feeds the need. Doran Racing, Ford Doran of Terry Borchella, Harrison Bricks, Forrest Barber and Andy Pilgrim. You remember that car got smashed yesterday. Heavy contact between Forrest Barber and Rocky Moran Jr. Well, they have not said we're stopping. We're not giving up. We're going to battle on. These guys won 2 years ago, and they are still, well, not necessarily in the hunt, but they're still in the race. They're in the top 10. They're running 8th position, and that's a credit to their determination.
That's the spirit of running a 24-hour race. That car was hit so hard it knocked the door completely off it and the whole back end. They rebuilt it, and it's back out there. Race isn't over by a long shot.
Second Cheever car is still in there as well. They're pushing hard, the 51. They were the first car in this field to have some adversity. There is the Alex Job Racing Porsche Crawford right in the middle of the traffic.
That is the car to watch. Last night it was 8 laps down. It made up a lap an hour, took back 7 laps and was handed another one, put it in the lead. At 6:30 this morning it had a 3-lap lead and then that half-shaft failure. Now it's fighting back again.
You'll notice the all-red 99 as we ride with Justin Wilson. Alex Gurney's behind the wheel of the Gainsco Blackhawk Pontiac Riley. Look at this, weaving through the traffic. Wilson's got the hang of this DP racing, that's for sure.
Oh, man, he did this last night all through the night. Now you can see where you're going. He's really going to give it to him now.
And how excited must Mike Shank be? He's tired. He's disappointed that one of his cars are gone, but this one is still in the hunt. The 2 Champ Car drivers, Mark Patterson and Oswaldo Negri.
Of course, the other car was out early, so it gives its full attention to this one car. You really got to watch running side by side on the banking. When you get close to each other, the air buffet starts to move the cars around. You got to leave a little room.
You'll notice that there's a healthy blanket of cloud above the speedway, but there's no immediate threat of rain. It's fairly high. Gee, we've had a good run with the weather. Usually it rains at least once during the night, doesn't it?
It's been amazing. We've had such a good weekend here. We've had no precipitation at all. Over by the ocean this morning was raining. That's kind of typical of Florida. But here, above the racetrack, nothing. No threat.
This has been an amazing field. If you weren't able to be with us yesterday, truly a star-studded lineup. I think that phrase is overused sometimes, but if you take a look at the notables that we've had in this race, and we still do have some of them, whether they be NASCAR Nextel Cup stars or open wheel, whether it be ex-Formula One, whether it be the Junior Formula, whether it be Champ Car or IRL. Some of the biggest names in motorsport. You won't see a lineup like this anywhere else this year. I think it's been a long time, if ever, you've seen a lineup like this.
I was going to say, yeah, I don't think you're going to find a lineup like this anywhere for quite a long time unless it happens here again next year. And somebody's gone straight at the chicane. Now they have to stop
51.
there. They have to stop and go.
That's Tommy
what
Erdos.
he's done, so there's no penalty there.
Tommy Erdos has done the correct thing, and the Dyson Crawford slips through for Howard Boss Motorsports. Tommy hangs high.
They touched up on the banking. The 59 got into the side of it, 51. And it's working to the outside now of Jim Durhag's car. That car's still running. The 40.
That's the 5-time Rolex winner, Hurley Haywood, who got a little impatient there and blew by Tommy Erdos. Just as we were going off air last night, it was the 59 that spun and caused a caution. But good to see them still running.
Guess who just got a lap back?
Yep.
The 23 on the prowl, like I said, has gotten a lap around the 02. He was making up a lap an hour last night, Lee. Unbelievable.
Brian.
Guys, I spoke with Alex Job about the yellow. I said, was that one a good one for you or not? He said, no, it was not a good one. We didn't get waved by, and as a matter of fact, it hurt us. Because Dorsey, as you pointed out, they were making a lap an hour last night. He said, we can't make up anything behind the yellow. We need it to stay green for us so we can use the speed of this Porsche and get by these guys, or it needs to come out and get us waved past the pace car. Right now, they're back at work.
Well, also the 99 in that last caution, Jimmy Vasser handed it over to Alex Gurney. This team, their first Rolex 24 competition. They've had a few problems. We saw that contact with the 77 yesterday. They made it through that, but they have also had problems with the CVs that everybody seems to be having problems with. They've had 2 half shafts let go, so their teeth with their first Rolex 24, but a team that I think everybody was thinking was going to be the biggest contender here, the 4 car, that car well back right now. I talked to Katie Crawford just a little while ago, and that car was experiencing engine problems very early on in this event. And I said, Katie, is this just the car that just doesn't want to give up? And she said, really, the car wants to die, but the team just won't let it. And right now, we're still having those engine problems. We aren't fast up on the oval, and we've gone through 7 alternators. So this team been having alternator problems all weekend long in practice and 7 during the race, but they're not willing to give up.
But this car and team is one that is in the championship hunt. With the 0, 1, and a 10 out, this car's got to keep going.
It's all about points. They're 140 laps behind the race leader, this car. But as Dorsey mentioned, can't give up. Got to grab those championship points. There's some talk that this car may be around this year, that the Ganassi camp are trying to work on a budget to run 2 cars this year. Stay tuned on that. Whether that works out, wait and see. So far, so good. The reigning Indy 500 champion, Dan Wheldon, is well in control. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Hope you can stay with us to the checkers. Ready to turn your plain Jane cell phone into a souped-up hot rod? Well, log on to speedtv.com for custom wallpaper and ringtones. Satisfy your need for speed with high-octane ringtones and fuel-injected wallpapers from Speed Mobile. Log on to speedtv.com now and download your favorite ringtone and wallpaper today. Welcome back to the Rolex 24, everyone. Let's talk GT for a moment. And a few moments ago, we were speaking with 17-year-old Graham Rahal. His car is currently 6th in class in the GT class. Scotsman Robin Liddell is behind the wheel, but a very proud father is Bobby Rahal, and Bobby joins us right now. Hi, Bobby. Leigh Diffey here with you. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Lee. How are you?
Very well. What do you think about your little boy and his first big one, his first time racing at night? He did well.
He's not so little, I'm afraid. He's growing up rapidly. But no, I think for the first endurance race he's ever driven, I think he's done a good job. The team has done a good. Unfortunately, they had a few little problems that really kept them from featuring in the race, but at least after the first hour or 2. But great experience for him, and I think he's enjoying it.
He seems to be well on track for success, Bobby. We ran a little piece earlier about his accomplishments, already being the youngest driver on a couple of major occasions to score significant victories. Right. He's definitely got it in him.
Oh yeah, I don't think there's any question. I've never had to push him. In fact, I'm kind of pulling the reins in every now and then. This is something that he really wants to do, and he's very serious about it. And you know, luckily he does well in school, and the school in New Albany works with him to make it all possible. So you know, I think he keeps doing what he's doing, and I think he's got a great future.
Bobby, Dorsey Schroeder, do you have any aspirations of sharing a car with your son in an endurance event like this?
You know, that's been the question of the week, I think, since I've gotten down here. No. You know, I had my time. I'm really not, I don't really find it, you know, too much of a pull for me to be here in terms of, you know, wanting to be out on the track. It's great just being here, watching him, supporting him as he did with me. And you know, my job's to help him as much as I can.
Bobby, just getting away from Graham for a moment, you must be very satisfied. It must be very gratifying to see how far along Danica Patrick has come and what a major star that she has become. You stepped forward and gave her an opportunity when she was doing Barber Dodge Pro Series back in 2002, and she certainly has come a long way.
Well, she has. I mean, the job she did last year I thought was phenomenal, especially during the month of May. It just got absolutely crazy, and I doubt there would be many people that would have been able to stand up to all the pressure, and it was even doubly difficult for her. I think being a young woman, you know, performing the way she did, and all the interest, and I thought she did a fantastic job in the race. You know, she'd never driven a race anywhere near that long, and here you go into your first 500 and you almost win it. So she did a great job, and I think this year she's going to be tougher than last. You know, 1 year's experience under her belt's going to go a long way.
We've been talking a lot about the lineup. You yourself are a previous winner of this Rolex 24. What do you make of the field that started this event? Pretty incredible.
It is. I mean, I don't know if it's ever been like this, even during the heyday of sports car racing. You know, I think this is, they've done a great job, and you know, you look at the number of cars here, 70 cars, and I don't know how many DPs there were. I think something like 30, 35, something like that. That's a great turnout, and it's just going to get, you know, by the looks of it, it's just going to get better and better. So anxious to come back. Maybe Graham will be in a DP next year. We'll see.
Well, Bobby, thanks for your time. Best of luck in the IRL IndyCar Series this year, and well done on creating a couple of stars with your son and Danica.
Thank you very much, Lee.
There he is, Bobby Rahal, 1981 winner of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. A champion driver, a champion team owner. And who knows how far his 17-year-old son Graham can go. Here's the third place car in the GT class. Dieter Questa behind the wheel, the 24-hour marathon man, has done a fine job. So too is his team. It was at one stage the GT class leading car. That honor still belongs to the TPC Agilon Consulting Porsche. The 66 still on track for a podium in GT.
Just when you said still on track, he was about to drop a wheel in the grass, and I was going to tell you, maybe not. You might have jinxed him, but he did okay.
It's Robert Nern behind the wheel. We saw the 66 run off track a little earlier. Take a look at this. This is just a few moments ago.
This is down into turn one in the brake zone, and you can see that this car is slowing up a lot more than he thought it was going to, and there's going to be a little bump right about here. Boom, thank you very much.
That's Nick Longy. It looked like Nick was giving him room for on the inside, then came back, bobbled a little.
Well, that's the problem with that corner. You can't assume that the guy really does think you're there. Sometimes they'll take a wide approach. You think they're giving you to the inside. You go in there and they chop down on you. That's exactly what just happened.
Still in the hunt in the TRG Porsche. The 83 machine is next with Dominic Farnbacher, who enjoyed victory in the GT class last year, along with his teammates Pierre Ehret and Mike Fitzgerald, who's a former GT Rolex 24-hour winner as well.
We talk about DP all the time. We got to give a hats off to GT. The competition level in GT is immense. It's unbelievable between those Pontiac GTOs, these cars. That RX-7, the RX-8 was unbelievably quick for its first time out.
It's just savage, isn't it? You make a slight mistake, there's someone there to gain your spot, whether it's for the lead, whether it's for third, whether it's for fifth.
And it's never one spot either in this class. It's a whole bunch of them.
Farnbacher Porsche running fifth in class.
Of course, you're having that race, and you have to be cognizant, as right now, you have all these DP guys hounding you from behind, trying to get around you. You have to look at that race and run your race around it.
Well, Justin Wilson has been turning some pretty impressive lap times. Justin Wilson is only 4 seconds behind David Donohue, so the pressure is on for second. Wilson in the Mike Shank Racing Daytona prototype is starting to reel Donohue in. Chris, what do you have for us?
Well, Lee, when you think about why people come to Daytona and you think they might only want to win this crown jewel of an event or maybe get that Rolex on their wrist, but Team Seattle has been doing this now for 10 years. They've been running laps to try and get money for the Seattle Children's Hospital. And this year, they just surpassed the $2 million mark with that last lap of the 87 car. $2 million has now gone to the Children's Hospital in Seattle. I think that's just probably one of the best stories here. This year, they were earning $561 per lap for that hospital. So over the 10 years, $2 million to that hospital.
It is a phenomenal effort to Don Kitch, to the entire organization who continually turn up here each and every year. Congratulations, well done. That is a stunning performance. So the leader is still Dan Wheldon. He's doing it comfortably by 2 laps, but the race is on for second. Just seconds separate them. Speed's coverage of the Rolex 24 at Daytona is brought to you by Rolex, a crown for every achievement. By Who's Your Tires. And powered by Pontiac, designed for action. Pontiac were dearly hoping that they would clinch their 3rd consecutive overall win in the Daytona prototype class. That's looking like a tough ask now, that's for sure. But as far as the GTOR in the GT class, it's still going very well. We ride with Paul Edwards. He's a little further back. They've had a tough time during the night. And let's get down to the team principal. He's with Andrew.
Yes, indeed. I'm sitting up here with him, Lee, and you might have to do some translation, but we call this the Pratt perch up here. Now, Kevin, it's going very well. You're in 2nd place. You're pushing hard, but you've got drivers who are not feeling so well, and really Andy Lally's taken everything on his shoulders.
Andy did a triple in the middle of the night. I think everybody on the team, I think everyone got something going on with their stomachs. And but the guys are persevering. I mean, they've been heroes all night. We've got a car in 2nd. We've got a car in 4th. The other 3 cars are in, all 5 cars are in the top 20. I mean, I'm really proud of everybody. They've been driving their asses off.
Now, your 4th car is, of course, a Porsche. You've still got Porsche written through you, haven't you?
Of course. I mean, you know, I'm in the motorsports business. I've been with Porsche a long time, and it's, you know, I'm proud to have had that association and still do. So, you know, we're going to do our best for you know, both cars.
Hey, I'm going to put you on the spot. What happened if the other 2 dropped out? It was a battle between the Pontiac and the Porsche.
No,
how'd you call it?
No, I wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. You know, it's not what we can do. So they got a race.
Terrific. The rest, how are you going to play it out? I mean, the boys have just got to push.
Yeah, they got to push. I mean, you know, the 36 cars a lap up. They're doing great. Their pit stops have been, you know, really good. Especially they have an air jack caught up, and they're doing it manually, and it's like they're not missing a beat. So we're just pushing as hard as we can right now. They're in the 36s in a little GTO sandwich right now, but they're holding their own.
Thanks, Kevin, very much. Let's go upstairs.
And as a driver, Buckler, incredibly accomplished. He won the World Porsche Cup. He's won this event overall and in class. But look at this. This is what happened to Kelly Collins in one of his Pontiac GTORs. A frightening moment down into turn 1.
Suspension failure on the right rear. Saw the windshield go sucked right completely out of there. Similar to the ride that Kevin Buckler took
had
last
one himself
year
like that,
when he had a flat
yeah.
there.
This is your GT class leading car, the TPC Agilent Consulting Porsche, but these are the guys out of the race, the GT competitors that have suffered adversity. And one of the most notable ones there is that brand new Mazda RX-8 of Sylvain Tremblay, Dave Haskell, Jeff Altenberg and Nick Ham. A lot of talk about that car, and it shows a lot of promise. Also, too, the Doncaster boys, Mark and Greg Wilkins and Dave Lacey, etc. They were hoping for a strong run here today, but it hasn't happened for them. And we switch to the DP class. Some big names gone here. Look at that, the 2004 champions, Papis and Pruitt and Luis Diaz, they're gone. So too Boris said, Kyle Petty and Brian Tuttle. And the big one, look at that, Jan Lammers, Danica Patrick, Alan McNish and Rusty Wallace at his first go at the Rolex 24. They are out of the race with engine dramas.
But in the points, look here, the 10, Angelo and Taylor, as well as the 01. This is two guys running for the championship, past winners.
We mentioned the Callaway Golf Daytona prototype for Howard Boss Motorsports out of the race and created plenty of headlines, mainly because of this man, the 89 NASCAR champion Rusty Wallace. He last celebrated a Cup victory at Martinsville in 2004. He was hoping to celebrate victory here at the Rolex 24. The car did get as high as the lead. They led for some 2 or 3 laps, and they learned a lot.
I have a whole new respect for preparation, pit crew, for equipment, because, you know, if it can make it 24 hours, it deserves that credit, and I think it's fun.
While one NASCAR champion is out of the race, another one is still in it, but Chris, he's not in the position where he'd like to be.
Yeah, Tony, the past 2 years, you guys were leading this thing about this time, but it didn't come through then, and this year it's just been tough from the get-go. How difficult is it to get back in the car with it running this far back?
Well, the thing about the Crawford car, it's so much fun that it's been fun to get back in it, even though we're way back. But I mean, these guys have done an awesome job. We've I don't know if we have any spare parts left for a motor, so I think they went through 7 alternators in between the practice on Friday and now. So it's just been a long weekend. I feel bad for Andy and Butch. I mean, they're running for points this year, so. You know, we just want to do the best we can, try to get it finished for them, try to get them as many points as we can.
How are the ribs feeling right now?
I'd rather them be just taken out right now. I wish they were like teeth, sore teeth that just pull them right now. But they'll live. I mean, I feel fine when I'm in the car. I just feel really, really sore outside the car. So the best thing to do is get in here in about 17 more laps and be in the car where it's comfortable.
Now, what does Joe think about all this extracurricular activity when you're trying to defend your NASCAR Nextel Cup champion?
I don't ask him. I just go do it.
Well, like you said, he's just thinking about these guys and their championship, and that's the great thing about Tony. He's a team player.
Great guy. Sorry that he's not up a little bit higher, but as you may have seen while Tony was talking, dice for second, new second place car. And look at that, the lanky Brit, Justin Wilson, has steered this Mike Shank Racing Lexus Riley into the top 2. It's Lexus 1 and 2 now.
Well, we talked about how good a job he did last night. Obviously, the sleep hasn't hurt him because he's doing a great job again, moving up into second place.
It's the odd couple, the 2 Champ Car World Series boys, Wilson and Armendinger, Mark Patterson and Oswaldo Negri. He's missed the last 2 years here at the Rolex 24 Oz, but they could be on their way to victory. Some very impressive lap times, some great pit work, and some heads-up, consistent driving.
Look at this photograph. Every time I do, it makes me laugh. How did our eyes get so red? And what the hell is on Joey's head? This is where I grew up.
One more time.
Every memory of looking out the back door. I have a photo album spread out on my bedroom floor. It's hard to say it, time to say it. Goodbye, goodbye. Every memory of walking out the front door. I found the photo of the friend that I was looking for. It's hard to say it, time to say it.
One of the true legends of the sport, one of the true legends of this race, 5 times a winner. And today is his 33rd appearance in the Rolex 24. Hurley Haywood still going strong. And as you saw in that video piece, he still wants one more, wants to make it 6. It won't happen today. This car, Dorsey, sadly for the Brumos organization, is back in 32nd position. They've had a tough run, but their sister car is still in with a shot.
Sister car been running very well all night and day, running 3rd right now.
The interesting thing about this 02 Target Chip Ganassi Lexus Riley is in the history of Daytona prototypes, if you would like to call them visitors to the race, visitors to the series, whether it be Nextel Cup stars or open wheel stars, they have never won the Rolex 24 in a DP. It's always been regular road racers who have won over the past 3 years. These guys could rock that tradition. They could upset that trend.
Of course, for the series regulators that are falling out already, they'd love to see these guys win because it doesn't do anything to their points.
Well, it takes points away from the regular series
from
competitors.
The guys behind it, correct.
But you've got series competitors in this car. Although the two champ car boys, Allmendinger and Wilson, they're the visitors. Mark Patterson and Oswaldo Negri will do the entire series. And Justin Wilson has done a stunning job. He might be a little cramped in there, the 6'4" Englishman, but it's not affecting his driving.
Amazes me he can get in there because I'm at 6 foot and got in and it is tight. So I know he's got his knees up underneath the dashboard pretty good.
I hear you crashed the simulator.
I crashed it more than once.
You're losing your touch there, old boy?
I crashed in places I didn't crash before.
That's what happens. There's the third place car. It's only 1.5 seconds further back. David Donohue, Darren Luhr, and Sasha Masson
in front of him. Look at that.
Big lock up from Wilson.
Big lock up from Wilson. Now, as he flat spotted that tire, he held it for quite a while.
The pace that he was running to catch Donohue, he hasn't continued that same pace to pull away at the same rate.
We'll have to see if didn't see any tire smoke there. We'll have to see if it has flat spotted at all. It'll start locking that brake or that wheel up again, tire.
Well, Dave Klim, the man behind Fabcar, must be very pleased to see his car running in the top 3. Massive changes, massive amendments to that chassis and the aerodynamic package over the off-season. And that work has been going on for quite some time. Porsche in Germany has helped them considerably. The revised engine package and car, it's working tremendously well.
And this car, the 39 of Cheever Racing, is run the most disciplined race. Look at the car, not a scratch, not a tire donut, nothing. They've gone on a pace that they thought they needed to run. They're not as quick in the straightaway, but they've done the job that they came to do.
Patrick Carpentier in his first Rolex 24 has done an outstanding job. Very solid driver, very diverse, and he's added another thing to his vast resume. Can he be on the podium? They're one step away from it at the moment. One position further back has been the most talked about car this weekend, the shredded Porsche Crawford for Alex Job Racing, Emery Motorsports, and the young German Mike Rockenfeller behind the wheel. Still in 5th and playing catch up, but boy, are they rolling fast, Andrew.
Yes, indeed. In fact, Rocky just turned his last lap at 1:44.299.
That's qualifying time, Andrew.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic effort by these boys. Pushing hard, but obviously a podium's in sight for them. Victory might now have gone, but they really want this badly. Everyone in the team absolutely well matched, but Rocky, fantastic laps. Just turned, just looking up at the timing board. His last lap, another one in the 1:44s. Let's go to Chris.
Andrew, the 75 team, that Tracy Crone owned car, they looked so strong last year when they were paired up with TRG. This year they did switch over to their own organization. They're running that out of Nick Janssen's shop in Atlanta. Early on in this event, they did have a bad shock on the rear end of that car, and they dealt with that through much of the first half of this race. And then about 3 a.m., they did have a transmission problem that they did have to change the gear cluster. So when they did that, they also fixed that rear shock. They replaced that shock, and the car running very well right now, but because of the problems they've had, they're just well back in the order. So not really contending for a win here, but just looking for some points. And most likely, they're going to go back to running 2 cars after this event. Once again, out of Nick Janssen's shop. And the 19 team, the Finlay Motorsports, that Playboy car, been running very well early on in this event. However, earlier yesterday, Alex Barron had that accident down in turn 1 when he got into some oil, did some damage to the front end of that car. The team just thought that that was mainly bodywork and an under tray, but he also got into the suspension a little bit. So they spent more time fixing that, lots of repercussions because of that accident, dropped them well back. That car is in good shape right now. Michael McDowell getting ready to get in that car, and he says it's running great, but there's not much we can do about where we're running.
Dorsey, every time I see that replay, the more I think how fortunate Darren Luhr was, because Barron got into that oil, he spun, hit the wall. Darren Luhr seemed way wide, but he got away with it.
Darren Luhr got there first, hit the oil first, and had a haul and full of opposite lock. Was too wide for the corner, but did the right thing, made it through there. Didn't catch him out, just about did. That was very lucky.
We go back to the 77. The Kodak Easy Share feeds the need. Ford Doran of former series champ, Rolex race winner, Rolex 24 winner, Terry Borchella, along with Forrest Barber, Andy Pilgrim and Harrison Briggs. What great spirit from these guys. Michel Jourdain, interesting experience for him as well, to learn this car and to learn this race. He said he first came here in 1996 to watch the race and was a little gobsmacked. But now he's right in the thick of it himself.
It would have been so easy for this team to give up after that big shunt last night where it tore the whole side of the car off, but they didn't do so. They went ahead and did all the work they needed, repaired it, and the car's back and healthy.
I'd like to correct myself there. I continued to say Andy Pilgrim in this team. He was with those boys when they won the Rolex 24. Of course, Andy's in the GT class. My apologies. Great to see the Sitco Pontiac Riley continuing. Milka Duno, the Franchitti brothers, and Kevin McGarity. As Dario said, they lost 40 minutes during the night. They did have a few problems early yesterday afternoon as well. They ran consistently in the top 10. They've worked their way back into the top 10. 612 laps against the leaders, 649. They're out of contention for victory, but a good solid top 10 result.
But with 2 hours and 43 minutes left, you know, that can all change.
Sure. Well, they've just crossed the mark of a normal race distance of 2 hours 45.
That's a good point.
So here we go. We're into a regular round right now. To our GT leader, Spencer Pumpelly. And boy, this car has been solid. Right from the point where they had contact yesterday afternoon with the 17 of Johnny Molam, and Brian grabbed Mike Levitas down in pit lane and he said, look, that's just not fitting to our game plan. We want to stay clean, we want to keep it neat and tidy and just be there at the end.
And for a GT car to be in the top 10 when you have 30 Daytona prototypes driven by the best there is in the world, that's an outstanding effort right here.
Second in class, the Pontiac GTO-R. And as we heard from team principal Kevin Buckler earlier, they're doing it tough, these guys. They're all got a stomach bug or some food poisoning or something. They're in the F1 Air Pontiac GTO. Can they get the victory? Something will need to happen to this car.
Well, it's on pit road. We'll see what happens to it now.
This is the time of the day. Those little niggly errors in the pits, they can get to you. But let's see the TPC team go to work. The manual jack. That adds an extra unwanted element.
And every time you shut that engine off, you don't ever know for sure it's going to start back up on its own.
Andrew, you there yet?
Hey, mate, I'm running. I'm 62 years old, you know. This keeps me fit, this pit reporting job.
Here he
comes.
comes.
I think the guys are working pretty hard with that jack as well. So it reminds me of NASCAR with this jack going up.
Andrew.
You can probably tell. I'm a little bit out of breath. I think you did that.
I hope they don't take off on you just as you get there.
No, I'm there, mate. I'm there. And this looks all fairly straightforward. Wheels are going on, no driver change. And a lot of pressure on these guys because, you know, compared with Kevin Buckler's outfit, you know, this isn't the same for the team, same number of people. There you hear the car accelerate away. And I will get my breath back.
Great job from TPC. The 0-0 car is in. And time for those guys to go to work in the pits as we continue the countdown. 2 hours, 40 minutes to go. Back at the Rolex 24, Justin Wilson stays in the 60. Mike Shank Racing Machine. This Lexus Pontiac is powering on nicely as we continue the countdown to the checkered flag. It's been an amazing race so far, so much to talk about, so many incidents and so much good racing. Let's bring you up to date. If you missed the majority of the action yesterday, let's show you some of the highlights, just some of what transpired in this incredible event. 66 cars took the green flag. Don Kitch had a repeat of what occurred the day before. The racing was fierce. Mimo Gidley got turned around in the heavy traffic. There were some close calls for the car that we were just on board with. This is the 60 Mike Shank racing car. So this is a top 3 car, and it even had its share of adversity. The fastest car in the field, the Alex Job Porsche. Problems with those half shafts and CV joints. And then look at this, one of 2 heavy contacts. This was the one that took the reigning champions out. But it happened again. Forrest Barber, Rocky Moran Jr., a carbon copy. Car on the right going wide, sweeping to the left and T-boning. And then Darren Law put the pressure on Alex Barron. An inside move, and a lap later, Barron crunches into the Armco barrier. And that cost that team heavily time-wise. The Tuttle and Crone Daytona prototypes coming together in a gentle nudge, and that cost the Crone car time. And then this, Kelly Collins, a ride on the wild side, and we basically have one of those every year. The 2 Callaway Howard Boss Motorsports Daytona prototype got as high as the lead, but then that was sayonara for Rusty Wallace, Danica Patrick, Alan McNish, Jan Lammers. Frightening moments on the front straight heading into turn 1. When it's that fast, you're just a passenger. And during the night, we farewelled the 01 Ganassi car. The CompUSA Daytona prototype champion Scott Pruitt had to say, that's it, it's all over. This was the fastest car during the night. The Alex Job shredded Porsche, but continual problems with the CV joint and half shafts cost them great. They've gone from the lead back to 5th. They maintain their position and are trying to play catch-up. Our class leaders continue to be the Ganassi 02 Target car and the TPC Porsche with Spencer Pumpelly on board. And we continue to be on Daytona prototype race record pace. Let's take a look at time spent in the pits.
And that is the tale of the woes, really, right there. Time in the pits has been huge this event.
And look at the comparison there between what could be a race-winning car, the Red Bull Brumos Porsche, almost double the time that the 02 car has spent in pits. Andrew, what do you have for us? Who do you have for us?
I've got Chris Bingham down here, just climbed out of the 20 car, the De Haag Motorsports machine. Chris, you said the restart was really hairy.
Oh, it's incredible. It's like a sprint race out there. People are diving in and out. It's like the first lap of the race again. They're hitting each other, banging each other. I'm going crazy. We've got, what, 3 hours left? It's incredible.
Now, what's it been like driving with a legend like Ron Fellows?
Oh, it's incredible. He's such a great guy. I mean, he's a very pleasure to deal with. He's just so smooth, so graceful in the car. It's just a real pleasure to drive with him.
And the car now is in good shape?
So far, we've had we're 100 and some laps down. We had a CV boot break apart in the middle of the night, which broke a tripod. We went out for about a half hour, about 45 minutes, and then we lost the clutch in the middle of the night and broke it apart and got a back clutch in it and put it back together. And so we lost, we're down 106 laps, which is too bad because we haven't had any other problems since then. So.
Well, thanks very much, Randy Roman in the car now. I'll go to Chris Neville.
Thank you, Andrew. Our race-leading car is in pit lane. The Target car just came in, just gonna be fuel and tires. Danny Wheldon is hopping out of this car. Scott Dixon getting in. He's gonna finish up the race. The team's saying the car working very well right now. No problems. So just fuel and tires on this stop. Now just remember, these guys only have a 2-lap lead, and right now we've got about 2.5 hours to go. So pretty much the normal time of a sprint race that these guys run all year long. So still quite a bit of time for some things to happen out there, so they're going to have to push hard. They can't just lay back with this 2-lap lead, especially when they've got 4 other cars out there that are hunting them down. Also, just before we were at break there, the 60 car was in pit lane. Justin Wilson staying behind the wheel. That was a little bit of an early stop for them because Wilson did flat spot the tires as he was trying to run down this car. Andrew?
Bill Caduno's just got out of the number 7. She is rubbing her arms. The power steering has gone. Marino Franchitti, we're going to see how good he is at press-ups because he's getting in the car now. And the 39 car has just also stopped virtually at my feet. Chris Fittipaldi about to get into that car. And we've seen some very smooth pit stops from this guy, this team, I should say, which of course we heard earlier is largely an IRL crew, so I guess they're used to quick pit stops. Everything going well here, and Patrick Carpentier just climbed out of the car, threw his hands up in the air. I think they're having some issues getting Christian Fittipaldi into the car here. This can take as long as it takes to fuel it sometimes. If they don't get this driver change right, sometimes it can take as long as 45 seconds. And as you know, it takes about 42, 43 seconds to get all the fuel in. So this team working away, but they just kept to that set pace, and that's the way it is staying.
That was a short stint from Patrick Carpentier, as Eddie Cheever told you earlier. He said he wants Christian Fittipaldi to finish this race, so Cheever's done for the day. He'll have his two drivers do the rest of the work, and more to the point, Fittipaldi will finish. 2.5 hours to go.
You see the man right here with this bottle. It's got compressed water in it, and he's purging the cooling system. It's got more pressure in that bottle than does the whole cooling system itself. So it's blowing water in on that hole and out somewhere else out the back.
There's a problem down here. They're needing to push it out. Fittipaldi
won't start, I don't think. Now
will the car fire? Now it fires. You can see Christian shaking his head, saying, I couldn't get it going. No problems now for the Crown Royal Special Reserve Lexus Crawford. Let's speak to the man who's just stepped from the car.
Certainly has, just taking his crash helmet off now, unplugging the various bits and pieces, and then we'll get a word with Patrick Carpentier. There he goes, look, and off comes the skid lid. We see the moustache, the beard, and a smile on the face of Patrick Carpentier because you had a good run there.
Yeah, no, it was not too bad. The car was very consistent, low 47s all the time, so we're running 47.0, so it was not too bad, you know, but I had so much traffic early on the restart that the guys up the front had time to go away from me, so I was trying to catch them, but they were too far, so hopefully we make some ground there. We passed a lot of cars, but the guys I wanted were already gone.
Rockenfeller's doing 44s. Mike Rockenfeller's doing 44.
Yeah, it's impossible for us. We're lacking a bit of speed down the straightaways, so for us, it's these guys are out of what we can do, you know. We get passed down the straightaway a little bit too easily, but the car is good on the infield, but maybe next year. It's our first year, and thanks to Crown Royal.
You've learned a lot. Let's get down to Chris Neville.
Well, Butch Leitzinger's just brought the Boss snowplow machine to pit lane. This car not contending for the win here today. However, they are looking to just try and pick up as many points as they can. Tony Stewart getting behind the wheel. You'd think, you know, with his bruised ribs and everything, maybe he'd say, hey, Andy Wallace, why don't you get in this thing? But hey, he loves driving these cars. And this team just not willing to give up. This car has not wanted to go since pretty much Thursday this week, but this team just sticking with it, trying to keep it out on the racetrack. So just doing fuel and tires, taking their time getting Tony in the car. Obviously, his ribs are bugging him quite a bit, so these boys just trying to get him in there as easy as possible.
Well, they put 7 alternators on that car, and an alternator charges the batteries as they are depleted by brakes, the power steering, and by the lights on the car, etc. They keep blowing out for some reason. Now, they've put a wiring loom in their wiring harness trying to find the problem. They just haven't found it, and I guarantee you they'll be putting more of those alternators on before the day's over.
So many Nextel Cup notables in this field. Bobby Labonte, one of them, but his car is smoking. The Spirit of Daytona. Crawford is in trouble.
That's ominous smoke, too. You can't tell if it's coming out of just one tailpipe or both, or if it's got like an oil type of a leak where you've got from underneath the car. But the way it's puffing, to me, it's coming out the exhaust, and that's not good.
Bobby heads to the pit road. Exciting future for this team, with Bobby Labonte becoming more heavily involved with the Spirit of Daytona organization. They look to grow that team and expand, and increased involvement from Labonte. Of course, he's got his Nextel Cup commitments, but he will do as many races as he can. See him back here at Daytona for the Paul Revere, and the second place car is in. David Donohue in. Will we see a driver change here, Chris?
No, I don't think we're going to, Lee. Nobody's standing up, so David Donohue most likely will be staying behind the wheel of this car. The team's saying everything seems to be running well. They're still watching the engine temp on this Porsche, so we'll probably see them blow out the radiators in the front. But other than that, the car seems to be working very well, and David Donohue and Darren Law very excited about that, because They've been dealing with this chassis for the past 2 years and just haven't been happy with what it's been able to do against the Crawfords and the Rileys. But this year, this car looks to be very fast. So a lot more smiles on David Donohue and Darren Law's face. The team just trying to finish up the tires, fuel, giving David a clear windscreen. Then they're going to blow out the radiator, and he'll be back out on track. Andrew?
Yeah, well, just had a quick word with Larry Alberto, who climbed out of the Spirit of Daytona car. The guys have got the hood off here, and they're having a look. I think it's possibly an oil leak, just having a look underneath the car, see if there's any lubricants there. And I think this car really is not very well at all. Quite a lot of oil in the engine compartment here and on the exhaust, and they're just trying to run the engine up at the moment. So, well, plenty of spirit left in the Spirit of Daytona, but it may not help we get a good result, guys.
And the Mike Shank Racing Daytona prototype takes over second place again as David Donohue exits pit lane. The 60 is back in second. So it's Scott Dixon for Target Chip Ganassi Racing who leads the way. Then it's this Mike Shank Racing, Lexus Riley. So 2 Lexus Rileys in the top 2 positions. And then it's the Porsche-powered Fab car in third with David Donohue. Christian Fittipaldi is fourth in that Lexus Crawford. And then Mike Rockenfeller in the Porsche Crawford. That's your top 5. We'll be back.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and some fabulous old shots there, including the late Dale Earnhardt. And of course, don't forget that special tribute to Dale Earnhardt as part of our Speed Weeks coverage, which kicks off February 10, over 70 hours, 10 days of coverage. Fabulous way to kick off the 2000 racing season. We've got a car that spun there just in front of our race leader, Scott Dixon. No harm done there. But can anyone catch this car? It's the 68 TRG Porsche. Will it be bulletproof to the end? Will the O2 have a trouble-free run for the next 2 hours, 19 minutes?
Well, that is the question, isn't it? We know the 23's got more speed, but it's too far gone for that car, I'm afraid. The O2 without troubles would be hard to catch.
They've had their fair share of trouble, that's for sure. Good morning to you wherever you are around the country joining us on Speed's coverage of the Rolex 24. Here's that spin for the TRG Porsche.
Up in the International Horseshoe, just gets in there with a little bit too much aggression on the throttle, and around she comes.
Revere greased behind the wheel. And it was fairly innocent, wasn't it? There's damage on the back of that car, but they were all able to get through no problem, including race leader Scott Dixon. Well, this man loves this event. He was even asking me earlier this weekend, he said, hey, could you help hook me up with a V8 supercar team to maybe do Sandown and Bathurst later this year? He just loves driving a variety of cars. He won a major open wheel championship in Australia in the Formula Holden, very high horsepower wings and slicks cars, then made the move to North America, winning the Indy Lights Championship, then going on to win a race in his first season in Champ Car, and of course made the switch to the IRL IndyCar Series, becoming the 03 champion.
There's
Tony Stewart behind the wheel of the 4.
Getting past here, going down into turn 1. And we don't know, you know, that car, the 4 car has just suffered since they unloaded it, basically. I mean, they didn't have a good session anywhere throughout the weekend. They fought these electrical gremlins throughout. 7 alternators put on that car, still haven't found the problem, but it's in it for the championship. with Andy Wallace and Butch Leitzinger, so they have got to go on.
And the major difference, Dorsey, is that at this time, for the previous 2 years, they were in a much stronger position. However, the hammer came down on them twice. Let's have a look at Tony Stewart's woes over the past couple of years. This is pressure cooker stuff now.
It's always the last hour too, isn't it?
I'm not sure even Tony Stewart's skill can get this thing up to speed and try and win this one.
Look at this, your race leader, Tony Stewart, limping, trying to get this wounded car to the checkered flag in just 30 minutes' time.
Well and truly off the deck there.
Out there, he's gone!
Oh, he's lost the left rear.
Talk about high drama.
They've got that smoke coming out from underneath, which does not look good.
The 20 car's actually been pushed behind the wall. These guys are not in this race anymore, it looks like.
Max Crawford looks so absolutely crushed.
The big difference there is that they've had problems right from the get-go this weekend. That first year was crushing, 17 minutes to go, and they had victory snatched away. Last year they had a 4-lap lead before drama struck. This year they've just been playing catch-up right from the word go. They're back in 36th overall. However, as Dorsey correctly pointed out, there are points to be had for this championship. This is round 1 of the Rolex Sports Car Series, round 1 of 14. You've got to be in it for the long run. And the defending champions went out long ago, yesterday. The SunTrust car of Wayne Taylor, Max Angelelli, they went out a long time ago. This car's still running though. Chris Dyson, his father Rob, Guy Smith, and Ollie Gavin. Been a pretty tough day for them as well.
It has been a tough day for them. They've also had a lot of different problems, but keep working on the car. You see on the right side of the car an air scoop. All these Pontiacs seem to be suffering lack of air to the engine. Each team trying to address that independently, trying to get more air, get more power. The Pontiac crew just really hasn't shown well not this 24.
Dorse, when you, for this car here, it's not so bad. The 16's only just shy of 60 laps down. But say, for instance, the Howard Boss car, the number 4, they're 140 laps down on the race leader. Why keep going? Is it to scrounge a few championship points, or is it just simply to say you're finished?
Well, it's both. There's always a I did finish theory about the whole thing, but points are points. And in 2 hours, if you're sitting on the side of the road, a lot of laps go by. At least not enough, but you look at that. The year that I won the championship, won the 24 Hours of Daytona here, we broke with about 30 laps to go, but we had that much in hand.
Yeah. Just got to keep on punching out, huh? Punching it out all the way.
Plus, these guys are learning. In case of Dyson's cars, they haven't had the mileage on there. There's the 23 coming up. And it was making up over a lap an hour last night. That's not going to be enough.
Well, time's against them at the moment, isn't it? 2.25 hours to go. These guys haven't thrown in the towel. The Make-A-Wish Foundation, Finlay Motorsports prototype, a lineup of Bryan Herta, Buddy Rice, Rob Finlay and Michael Valiente. They have had a hard go almost since the beginning of the race. But Chris, they haven't thrown it in, and they're running 13th overall.
No, they're not willing to give up yet, and Buddy Rice did a triple stint just a little while ago. Bryan Herta got in. He's been in it for the past hour and a half. Buddy was getting ready to lay down, maybe take a shower, and they said, hey, Buddy, you got to get back in this car. Buddy, you hadn't had any time in the car in any of the practices or qualifying, but they've been just putting you in this thing from the get-go. What's going on?
I don't know, I've become the workhorse now all of a sudden. I didn't get to do nothing all week, so I'm making up for it now.
Now, what's going on with Valiente? We're hearing he's a little bit sick.
Yeah, I guess I'm not really sure. I was back in my motorhome hanging out, thinking I was done for the deal, so I got a knock on the door, said be ready in 10 minutes, so I got my stuff back on, and here I am.
Well, Valiente is going to run the season, but he's obviously not feeling well right now, so Bryan Herta and Buddy Rice really pulling the weight.
Well, there was a pre-race press conference with all of the IRL IndyCar drivers, and the question was asked to Buddy Rice and Bryan Herta, how is it out there? And they both looked at each other and laughed, said, don't know, I haven't been out there yet.
And that's exactly what happens in these 24 hours. You're a new guy on the block coming in, and the car's not operating right or something. They put the veterans in to try to sort it out. Here you come into the race, you've not even sat in the thing yet. A lot of people getting sick, you know, these drivers. A lot of people with stomach problems.
One of the tough stories in the race is the 99 Gainsco Black Hawk Racing Pontiac Riley. Rocky Moran Jr., Alex Gurney, Bob Stallings and Jimmy Vasser. And look at this, Alex's father, the great Dan Gurney. Victory in the most incredible fashion back in '62. And then, of course, his All-American races, the Toyota Eagle. Victory. The last time a Toyota won. There's Dan. He's hoping to see his son do it again today. It's not going to be the case. And of course, Rocky Moran Sr. won for Dan Gurney. And Rocky was hoping to emulate what his father did with his good friend Alex, but they have just been up against it. They've been involved in too many things and they've had mechanical issues. It's been a tough run for the Gainsco boys. But they battle on as well.
You know, no one's run a completely clean race. I mean,
that's right.
Huge attrition from all of these top teams, more so than I would have ever thought.
Well, normally you can say the lead car or the top two, they've had a pretty much hassle-free run, but for everyone from our race leader down, it's been drama-packed. The Black Hawk Racing Pontiac Riley, the 99 sits 28th overall. And Rocky Sr. is in the pit box, watching his son and Alex Gurney and the rest of the team. Let's hope they can make it all the way to the checkered flag. Stay with us. We're live and exclusive all the way to the end.
Yes, the supple fingers of Masseurs Chris working away here on Lucas Luhr, who's been turning some of the very fastest laps of this race. Still pushing hard in the 23, still hoping, of course, for a podium finish. Well, I'm not sure if David Hobbs has been having a massage overnight, but I know he's back in the booth. So, David, how do you feel up there?
I feel just fine without the massage, thanks very much, Andrew. But I did see you running down the pit lane a few minutes ago. Just about laughed my socks off. Poor old codger, heaving your way down the pit lane like that.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. Dorsey and I look a little tired because we've been working. David's just had a 12-hour sleep. That's why you look so fresh.
Oh, just a little. Oh, was it 12 hours?
But I guess that's what happens when you're a sports car legend. Hey, lots happened since you went off the air. We've got a race on our hands.
We've got a heck of a race on our hands, both in the GT and, of course, in the DP class. The O2 cars had its troubles and trials and tribulations with the brakes and, of course, with the alternators. But, of course, that 23 car is just extraordinary. It's lapping now in qualifying times. It's only 4 laps down and 2 hours to go. I mean, in long-distance racing, who knows?
Always sucks you in a little bit, Dorsey, doesn't it? You say we're this far out, oh, it's pretty much set in stone, and then with an hour and a half to go, something happens that changes the complexion of the race.
You know, I'm starting to wonder with all the attrition we've seen so far, particularly early in the race yesterday, if all of the stellar drivers we've been hyping so much aren't running the cars a bit too hard.
Well, of course it could be. I mean, they call this endurance racing. I think this year has been really both endurance and racing.
Well, our 2-class format has been very interesting. We've spoken a lot about our DP class winner, our leader, I should say, our GT class leader, the TPC Agilent Consulting Porsche is running so strong. And a man who has been a GT class winner here at the Rolex 24 joins us now. Good morning, Randy Pobst. Things are going well.
Good morning, Lee. Good morning, Dorsey. Yeah, we're glad to be here, and it's great to be in a Porsche here at Daytona again. We're getting close, but you know how it is. No celebrations until you drive under the checker in first place.
We've been telling a storyline from your team principal, Mike Levitas. He told Brian Till yesterday, after you guys got hit a little by Johnny Molam, he said, hey, that's not fitting to our plan. We want to keep it clean. We don't necessarily want to be the fastest, but we want to be the cleanest out there. And it has gone to plan, hasn't it, so far?
Yeah, that was just one of those little things between friends. It has gone extremely well thus far, touch wood, I think David would say. And we're looking forward to bringing it home these last 2 hours. One of the interesting things about running this year has been the new pavement, which has given far more traction than what we've been used to all these years at Daytona. I've really had to relearn the track, and to tell you the truth, Dorsey, I was out there driving the old track throughout the test days, and now I'm starting to find ways to go much faster, and I'm turning my best laps of the weekend in my last session.
Randy, you know, we've seen a lot of half shaft failures and CV joints and so forth. You think it's that new pavement, getting the grip in there, that's doing that?
No, I think it's probably the pace. That's really not a bad guess because there is a lot more grip, but I don't think it's unusual in terms of any other racetrack that we run on.
Randy, at one stage during the night, because Porsches are so reliable and predictably fast, but at one stage during this race so far, we've had a Mazda, we had Pontiacs occupying the top 3 positions, and it wasn't a Porsche in the top 3 or at the front. It's good to have that competition, huh?
Well, they say the cream rises to the top, right? At least in endurance racing. Obviously, it's almost a cliche to talk about Porsche reliability, but on the other hand, there's one Porsche that's ahead of all the other ones, and that's partially due to TPC Racing and Mike Levitas. He's a fun-loving guy, but you know what? He's brilliant, and he knows how to prepare a car for a long race, and I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself because I don't want to go too far until we drive under that checker in first place.
Hey, I've been away for a year, but has Levitas got a new racing suit? I hope so.
I don't know if he's shaved. Mike Levitas is Mr. Hands-On. He arranges the sponsorship with Agilon. He drives the truck down here this weekend. He drives the race car. He's the crew chief. He's the chief mechanic. And here we are leading the race. So he's one guy that can juggle more balls than any other clowns you ever saw.
Well, we've seen him pull his driver's suit right down to his skivvies and get right up underneath a hot race car getting dirty, so nothing surprises me. He's a worker.
That's my boy. Mike Levitas is a 1 in a million personality. You gotta love the guy. And actually, he can get away with more stuff, too, because everybody loves him so much.
As we said, Randy, you've been a GT class winner here before. We hope you are again today. Best of luck for these final couple of hours.
Thank you very much, Lee. I'll be doing the last stint here in about another half an hour, so keep your fingers crossed and don't celebrate till we drive under the checker in first place.
All the best, buddy.
There he is, Randy Pobst from the TPC Agilon Consulting team. We climb on board with the 66 Robert Nern-driven TRG Porsche, and we just saw his teammate Kelly Collins in the Pontiac back on board after that scary ride during the night. It is still Porsche, Pontiac, Porsche, the top 3 in the GT class.
And of course, Andy Lally never spoke a truer word. Never count the dough till the checkered flag drops. Sure.
Problems for the 81 Synergy Porsche. We saw this a little earlier before we went to the break. And the Synergy team have got a mass entry here, both in Daytona prototypes and in the GT class. But dramas here for the 81. Hal Pruitt was behind the wheel as he limped back to the pits. He had a problem with the left rear. Andrew, is that still the case?
Yes, they're just checking the left rear at the moment with a torch shining, and they're turning the wheel around. I can't see anything that's obvious with it, Lee. As you said, Hal Pruitt just got out of the car, and I think the car's just going to go back in the race. They're not paying any attention to this.
Well, it looks like they're checking the locker in the rear end. See right on board here, this car's been having a lot of trouble with the back. Oh, there was a missed gear there, David.
Yes, absolutely. That's going to the bust up.
Got a look.
There goes a, ooh, up.
Well, that was
this is not good at all. The 39 is Cheever's entry, and that's death smoke, I believe.
Oh, no.
Christian Fittipaldi's on board. This is what we have been describing as the most consistent car, and look at the team. They know it.
That did not look good. That smoke coming out wasn't an oil leak.
No, an engine smoke. That's the one thing that Eddie Cheever was making a point earlier on, of course, that they overgeared the thing a little bit to try and make the engine last, and he'd complaining about being slow down the straight as a result, but see, whatever it is.
There's an aura of steam in there, not just smoke. That's steam. See, they're badly overheated.
Such an incredible job. First time out in that car, and a dejected Christian Fittipaldi shakes his head, threw his hands in the air. It's over for Eddie Cheever's men. The Crown Royal Special Reserve Crawford has been so strong, so steady. As Eddie told us many times, we set a pace and we stayed to that pace. And it was all going to plan, but 2 hours from home, it's over.
That's a shame. This has been the most disciplined team. They knew they weren't the quickest in the straightaway. They ran their game plan. They ran it right down to the end, and it still bit them.
They didn't rise to the challenge ever to make a big challenge. They're humming right along there. Certainly when the possibility of coming in the second spot in this race, but they are out now. And
I'm absolutely amazed at the amount of these engine problems that we've seen this weekend, you know, with overheating, with head gaskets. I'm really starting to wonder, you know, if there's a common thread here.
Yeah, but what about what Randy Pobst said, David, that when you asked him about the half shaft problems, he said, I don't think it's that. I just think it's the cracking pace that has been sent. Let's go to the team principal.
Well, it's a huge pace.
Eddie, you've been in racing a long time, but this just doesn't get any easier when this happens.
No, we had ran a very good 22 hours. Everything was on pace. We're not quite sure what broke, but I think it's something in the engine. You know, what can I say? Disappointed, but
it's been, other than the course of this devastation now, it's been a great start to your endurance career here.
No, we're obviously bitterly disappointed, but we're very glad that we were here, and it's a good start. Speed-wise, and the team and everything did very well. There's nothing you can say about it, really. We'll be back again.
Next stop, Mexico. Next stop, Mexico.
Yes, it's a tad shorter than this one is.
But Eddie, just a last question. Did you enjoy the driving part of it?
I loved it. I had a great time. I thought my teammates did a very good job, and we're very appreciative of the support that we got from Crown Royal to allow us to compete in this. It's a great event.
So will you do the Indy 500 this year as well?
I'm considering it.
There you are. You heard it first. On speed.
Well, a lot to be enthused about, that's for sure. Chris, what do you have?
The Make-A-Wish car back into pit lane. Buddy Rice taking over from Bryan Herta. This team not in contention today, and this Finley team has gone from 1 car last season to 2 cars this year. Rob Finley really catching the racing bug last year and deciding to move this team from the West Coast out to Charlotte. And that's really the main reason that they've switched over to the Crawford chassis and the Ford motor. They've just got better relationships in the Charlotte area, and they thought they could be a better partner with Max Crawford. So these boys, maybe not in contention today, but they will be all year long.
Yeah, and you double your workload, and also with a package that you're unfamiliar with. They ran a BMW Riley last year, now the Ford Crawford, so plenty of changes in 2006 for those guys, but they are still running. Unlike the Crown Royal Special Reserve car, for them, it was the Rolex 22. They needed just 2 more hours.
And I have broken down on the 22nd hour myself. There's nothing worse than that. You've gone all day, all night. Now you're back into the day, and you think you got there within sight, and then 2 hours to go, and it's over for you.
Well, I've broken down in the 23 hours, 40 minutes time at Le Mans, where, of course, they don't count you once you drop out. At least here, they'll be in the running. They'll be classified. They'll be classified.
Bryan Herta is really, really knackered here. Just climbed out of that car. You can see he's extremely hot. Dehydrated, I'm sure.
Well, with Michael Valiente not feeling well, Herta and Buddy Rice have had to carry the workload in that team. Let's head down to the pits and hear from Bryan Herta.
Ryan, you just did about a 2-hour stint. You and Buddy Rice seem to be carrying a little bit more of the workload here. Is it pretty hot out there?
Yeah, that last one just got to me. I don't know what. I started feeling ill in the car. My right arm went numb, so that was all I had. I'm glad Buddy could get back in and finish because I couldn't go triple again.
Now, we also heard that Michael Valiente was having some problems with the heat, too. Is this car just running a little bit hot?
I don't know. I've only been in this one. This one's pretty hot.
Well, Bryan Herta definitely a little bit lost for words right now. I just had a difficult time with that last stint, and Buddy Rice is going to try and finish this thing up.
Of course, these are all the signs of a guy who's been all night long. You get dehydrated, your body starts to tear down on you.
But, I mean, just look at the way he's perspiring. I mean, I don't think anybody ever realizes just quite how hot these DP cars are. I mean, all these prototype cars are hot because the last thing the engineer wants is air going through the car, according to the driver, because it spoils his aerodynamics.
Well, it's a cool day right now. It's 140
cool
in there, you know. Inside that cockpit, I guarantee it's 140 degrees.
And there is the weather outlook for today. And it just goes to show when you don't get a whole lot of time, and Bryan is very, very fit. You don't get a whole lot of time in these cars. It's even hard just to do these drop-in visitor-style races. But for these boys, they're handling it fine, aren't they? Scott Dixon, Dan Wheldon, Casey Mears, a trio of visitors to the Rolex Sports Car Series. They could well be winners in less than 2 hours. Speed's coverage of the Rolex 24 at Daytona is brought to you by Rolex, a crown for every achievement. By Porsche, there is no substitute. And by Hoosier Tires. We continue, and we're getting ever so close to the finish of one of the toughest sports car races in the world, the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and this trio of highly skilled drivers and this amazingly strong team could be victorious. We have had a different Daytona prototype and overall winner for the past 3 years, and it could be, and it will be, I should say, the 4th in succession, because the SunTrust team is not in this race anymore. It's been a very strong run for Dan Wheldon, for Scott Dixon, and also for NASCAR Nextel Cup regular Casey Mears. Let's take a closer look at Mears' run as we go inside the team.
Indy 500 champ Dan Wheldon now behind the wheel. He said, man, this is a long race. He looked tired, he looked sleepy-eyed, but I'm sure he'll get fired up once he gets this Lexus back into the action.
Yeah, it was nice to get some clear running. I mean, enough people have dropped out where you can really get some clear laps, you know, and just kind of put in a good pace. I felt way better for that run than I did the run before, just because I got some sleep. Just this last stint, you know, I was pretty much awake until about 11:30. Got in the car for my last stint. I got out about 2:30 and got some good sleep between then and this last time that I got in, and I felt really good this time. We got a washer and dryer back in the truck. These guys will take it back and dry it up and get ready for the next run. But I think that was my last run. Hopefully the next time I put the suit on is to get in victory lane with these guys.
As we come back, we take a look at the Ganassi pit. We've just hit our 9th full course yellow. Chris.
Lee down here with Chip Ganassi. Chip, last night about 11 o'clock, you and I spoke. The 0-2 is leading, and you said this thing isn't even close to being over. You didn't even want to think about you guys getting the victory, but now we're getting the last couple hours. You starting to smell that champagne?
I'm not smelling any champagne yet, Chris. You know, you saw the last couple of years what can happen. Something always seems to happen near the end of this race. So, you know, yeah, we've come a long way, but we have a long way to go yet.
You've been working so hard with Lexus and TRD to try and win this race. How important is it for you guys to get the victory?
Well, you know, we've had a good relationship with Lexus and TRD over the years, and we look forward to giving them some sort of result here today if we can. It's just a matter of, that's why they call it 24 hours at Daytona. It's 24 hours, and until then, nothing happens.
Chip is showing up for this race every year, loaded for bear, and looking for his first victory this year. Andrew?
Well, I'm with Bobby Labonte. Bobby, this has been a character-building race for you and the team.
Yeah, I mean, but you think about it, really a week and a half ago, this still didn't exist. So, for it to come together late like this, all of us got in the car for a few laps at Savannah Friday, and then come down here today or this weekend, just try to make it to the end.
How do you enjoy this form of racing here?
It's different. I'm not very good at it, so it's pretty different for me. But I do enjoy it, and it's been a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll do some more.
Will it help you with your Nextel road races like Watkins Glen? Does it sort of hone your braking ability and stuff like that?
Not as far as you drive these cars off in the corner, I don't think it is. But, I think just road racing in particular, I never did a whole lot of it when I was growing up, just a little bit, and then we got off on oval track racing. So, my selective road racing ability is pretty short. So, to get to do any of it's pretty good.
Meanwhile, Casey Mears still doing it for the Nextel guys.
That's right, yeah, pulling for him. He's doing a great job. Those guys, I mean, they've been tough all night. Had one car go out, but it's been exciting for those guys. See Casey up there running good, and obviously that whole team.
Just explain a little bit more how you hooked up here with the Spirit of Daytona organization.
Met them down here testing while we were here for the Cup car testing, and met Troy and Michelle and all the guys that work on the car, and just kind of struck up a conversation, and try to see what we can do to make it work. Try to help those guys, and they can help me some, and I can help them some, hopefully.
Meanwhile, big race here in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, coming back here, and it'll be exciting. Looking forward to it, and I think we got our Cheerios Dodge running good, and see what we got.
Thanks very much, Bobby.
Dorsey and David, I love the raw honesty we've seen from some of the big stars like Bobby Labonte, from Rusty Wallace. They say, we're out here, we're learning. And how good are these regular road racing guys? We've learned a lot.
Yeah, well, Rusty Wallace the other night at that Rolex dinner was asked about it, and he said, that us NASCAR guys think really NASCAR, the whole world revolves around NASCAR, and that we got all the top drivers, all the best drivers, all the best races. And I came here, he said, suddenly realized that everybody here was so
quick,
fast.
Yeah. Second place car is on pit road. Chris.
That's right, Lee. Justin Wilson bringing the 60 machine to pit lane, and AJ Allmendinger taking over for him. Justin's been in the car for about 2.5 hours right now, been making up some good time out there, but still 2 laps down on that 02 machine, the Target Chip Ganassi car. These guys still having problems with that steering wheel, and Mike Shank still having to get in the car, spray it down with silicone so that wheel is not binding up. But these guys right now just trying to hope to get those 2 laps back so they can make the charge.
What a day, what a time for AJ Allmendinger. Barber Dodge Pro Series champ, Toyota Atlantic champ, Rookie of the Year in the Champ Car World Series. And this is his first endurance race, first race with a car with a roof over his head. And he has done a mighty effort and is in with a shot of victory for Mike Shank Racing. We're under caution, the 9th of this race, and the Brumos Porsche is released as well. The fight for the win is still on, but they have to climb over the top of Scott Dixon first.